Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. Look, if you're the kind of person who loves to stay organized, who really wants to avoid those travel hiccups, and who generally just likes knowing exactly what to expect before you even start packing your bags, well, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're taking a really close look at what has honestly become a pretty scattered and sometimes downright confusing landscape of new travel and cruise regulations. Whether you're just flying domestically for a quick weekend getaway or you're heading out on a massive bucket list international cruise, there's some brand new rules coming into play that you need to know about. Some of these are actually pretty small updates, little tweaks designed to make your embarkation day a bit smoother. But others? They are massive, fundamental changes that could completely affect what you're allowed to pack, what kind of hidden fees you'll have to pay, and crucially, what travel documents you absolutely must have in your hand before they even let you on the airplane. It's a lot to keep track of, I know, but don't worry, we're going to make sense of all of it. Together, right here, right now.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's a quick roadmap for our journey today. First, we'll tackle international travel requirements. Then, we'll move right into packing and airline rules. After that, we'll go over the new embarkation process, review some big gratuities and fees updates, and finally, we'll wrap the whole thing up with onboard experience changes.
All right, starting right off with Section 1, International Travel Requirements.
So let's say you're flying into the UK. Maybe you're flying out of London Heathrow, or heading down to Southampton to catch a European cruise, or hey, perhaps your cruise itinerary simply has a port stop somewhere in the United Kingdom. If any of that applies to you, you really need to pay attention to this first one. In addition to your standard physical passport, you are now required to apply for a UK ETA. Now, what is that? It stands for Electronic Travel Authorization, and you absolutely must apply for this online before your trip even begins. The stakes here are literally vacation ruining if you get it wrong. If you don't have this completed and linked to your passport, you can actually be denied boarding on your flight at your home airport, or you could be denied entry upon arrival. They do not mess around with this. The official fee for this authorization is about 20 British pounds, and it's a pretty straightforward process, but you have to do it right on the official UK government website.
But guys, I have a major warning for you here. Because this requirement is so new and honestly, a lot of travelers are currently scrambling to figure it out, third-party scam sites have popped up literally everywhere across the internet. It's a very common scam right now, and they will mimic the official government channels. They make their websites look super official, and they will try to charge you hundreds of dollars for a third party to provide a service that you absolutely do not need. They're charging exorbitant fees for a £20 form. You must exclusively use the official government websites to process your ETA. Seriously, do not let a scammer take a massive chunk of your hard-earned vacation budget before you even leave your living room.
Okay, let's move over to the European Union and see how this travel tech trend is building. If your travels take you into the EU, maybe for an amazing Mediterranean cruise, you need to know about the newly implemented EES. That stands for the Entry/Exit System. Now, if you've been on social media lately, your feed has probably been filled with horror stories and videos of chaos regarding this new rollout. But let's demystify it right here so you know exactly what to do and don't panic. The nostalgic days of getting your physical passport stamped by a border agent, those are pretty much over. Instead, when you arrive, you're going to head straight to a digital kiosk. Here is how it works. Step 1. You insert or scan your passport on the glass reader. Step 2. You look right into a camera to take a quick digital photo. Step 3. You provide your digital fingerprints on the scanner. And don't worry, for those wondering, this is entirely digital. There is no messy ink involved that's going to ruin your travel outfit. Once you get that green success screen, you're done. And the good news? You only have to do this full registration process one time.
So if it's just a quick 3-step kiosk process, what is all the fuss about, right? Well, the reality of the rollout is causing some pretty significant lines at major European airports. Travelers are reporting wildly different wait times right now. Some lucky folks breeze right through in about 8 minutes. Others are standing there for 30 minutes. And unfortunately, some travelers are getting stuck in lines for well over an hour just waiting for an open machine. So the absolute most crucial takeaway here is how you prepare for this uncertainty. Here's my actionable advice for you. If you have a connecting flight in Europe, you absolutely must build an extra time. Do not, under any circumstances, book a tight connection right now. It's just not worth the stress. Additionally, if you have the option when picking your flights, try to select a seat much closer to the front of the airplane. That way you can be one of the very first people off the plane and hopefully beat the massive rush to those kiosks.
And just to quickly clear up some alphabet soup here, because I know we've talked about the UK ETA and the EU EES. There is also something called the EU ETIAS,
We have been hearing about this specific requirement for flying into the EU for probably a year and a half now, and people are getting really confused. But listen to this. Current projections show this ETIS system won't actually take effect until the last quarter of 2026. It keeps getting delayed. So just keep an eye out for updates on that down the road. But more importantly, once again, be super vigilant about scam emails right now. Scammers are sending out emails asking for your personal data and payment for the ETIS. As of right now, you do not need to fill it out. If you get an email asking you to, hit delete.
All right, moving right along to Section 2, Packing and Airline Rules.
Let's start this section with a pretty major update from American Airlines, specifically regarding portable power banks. I mean, who travels without a power bank these days? We all have them to keep our phones charged while taking a million vacation photos. But if you are flying, you absolutely need to know this new rule for safety reasons. American Airlines has implemented strict new limits. You are now only allowed a maximum of 2 power banks per person. They also must be under 100 watts. Now, to be completely fair, that 100-watt limit covers almost all the standard everyday power banks you'd buy online for traveling, so that shouldn't be an issue. But here is the absolutely critical part of this new rule. Those power banks must be kept in plain sight. You can keep them in a small personal bag, like a purse or backpack right under the seat next to you, but you absolutely cannot place them inside a rolling carry-on piece of luggage that gets shoved up into the overhead compartment. They are a fire hazard, so the flight crew needs them to be visible and easily accessible in the cabin with you.
Moving our focus from the air to the sea, we have a new, heavily debated banned item specifically on Carnival Cruise Line, wagons. Now, if you haven't cruised much lately, you might be asking yourself, who in the world brings a wagon on a cruise ship? Well, it turns out quite a few people do. Parents often love using them instead of bulky strollers for hauling young children around. Or savvy travelers use them to haul heavy beach chairs, towels, and snorkeling gear to local beaches when they get to a port. However, Carnival has officially had enough. They have now strictly banned wheeling wagons onto the ship during embarkation day, wheeling them off the ship during disembarkation, and navigating them around the ship's hallways and decks. But there is a slight, very specific exception to this rule. To our current understanding of the policy, you can actually still bring a wagon on board, but it must remain completely folded up at all times while on the ship, and then you are allowed to take it off the ship, again carrying it fully folded, to use at certain destination ports.
But wait, there is a very strict exception to that exception. You cannot bring a wagon, whether it's folded, unfolded, packed away, or whatever, to Carnival's brand new private island destination, Celebration Key. They are completely 100% banned at that specific destination. So, if your itinerary includes a stop at Celebration Key, do yourself a favor and just leave the wagon at home in the garage. You really don't want to be the person arguing with security and causing headaches at the gangway on your vacation.
While we are on the topic of Carnival's banned items, let's bust a quick rumor that was spreading like wildfire online. There was a ton of panic in cruise groups about fans being banned. Let's clear this up. Those wearable neck fans, the ones that are incredibly popular for beating the intense Caribbean heat, those are 100% allowed on board. Don't worry. The confusion actually started over those large, expandable church fans, sometimes called clock fans because of the loud noise they make when you flick your wrist. Carnival did indeed place a ban on these specific clock fans, but only indoors and on the dance floor. Honestly, this wasn't done to ruin anyone's fun. It was simply a practical safety measure. People were actually getting hurt on crowded, packed dance floors when these large fans were snapping open and closed in close proximity. So bottom line, if you've packed a wearable neck fan or a small handheld electronic fan, take a deep breath. You are totally good to go.
All right, next up is Section 3, the embarkation process. Let's talk about actually getting on the ship.
A couple of years ago, Princess Cruises tried an experiment. They essentially did away with strict, scheduled embarkation appointment times, basically telling guests to just show up at the terminal whenever they wanted. Now, you can probably guess the result. It was incredibly chaotic. You had thousands of people all showing up at exactly 11 a.m., resulting in massive, frustrating, hours-long lines. It was a stressful way to start a vacation. So to fix this, Princess is officially reversing course and introducing arrival groups. It's a return to structure. Now, exactly 30 days prior to your sail date, you will log into the Princess Cruises smartphone app and select your specific arrival group time. It is entirely first come, first serve, so you'll want to be quick if you want an early spot. The only people excluded from having to do this app process are guests staying in full suite cabins or the exclusive Sanctuary Collection.
So, rather than seeing this app requirement as a new hurdle or an annoyance, we should really look at this as the ultimate solution to those chaotic lines we've seen over the past few years. It brings much-needed order back to boarding day. Just set a calendar reminder for 30 days out.
Okay, let's transition into Section 4, Gratuities and Fees Updates. It's time to talk about the budget. We are currently seeing a massive, industry-wide shift when it comes to daily gratuities. For the most part, across the board, we are looking at about a $1 increase per day per person. Let's walk through these. Princess and Holland America, they are both sitting at $18 a day for standard cabins and $20 for suites. Carnival is coming in slightly lower at $17 for standard and $19 for suites. Even MSC Cruises, which historically was known in the industry for having some of the lowest gratuities for a very long time, has bumped theirs up to $17 for a standard cabin and $23 for their luxury yacht club. But I want you to really look at Margaritaville at Sea on this chart. Margaritaville is known as one of the cheapest base fare cruises you can possibly book, right? Well, they have raised their daily gratuities to a massive $20 per person for standard cabins and $25 for suites. And the real kicker here? Unlike some other lines where you can go to guest services to adjust them, for Margaritaville, those gratuities are entirely mandatory and cannot be removed. It is a stark, very real reminder that you absolutely must calculate the total out-the-door cost at the time of booking and not just get blinded by that ridiculously low advertised base fare.
Speaking of those base fares, I want to pause and pose a question directly to you. Are guaranteed cabins still a good deal? For some quick context, if you don't know, a guaranteed cabin is when you pay a much lower promotional price for a general room category. Say you pick an ocean view, but the cruise line gets to pick the exact room location for you. You don't know where you'll be on the ship, you just know you're guaranteed to get on board. It's basically spinning the roulette wheel. It has always been a fantastic way to save some cash if you aren't a picky sleeper. But Royal Caribbean has just introduced a fascinating new twist to this old strategy.
Royal Caribbean is now charging a non-refundable $30 fee per cabin if you want to find out your guaranteed cabin number early right after booking. Previously, you just have to wait anxiously, sometimes for months, until closer to your sail date to find out where you'd be sleeping. Now, they are letting you pay $30 to eliminate that anxiety. The reaction to this has been incredibly mixed. Some people genuinely view this as a really helpful convenience fee. They want to know. Others, however, see it as a bit of a money grab by the cruise line. After all, think about it. The whole entire point of booking a guaranteed cabin is to save money in the first place, right? So, is paying an extra $30 just to peek at your room assignment early actually worth the cash?
Well, let's look at the silver lining here, because there is one. If you do go ahead and pay that $30 fee, and you find out your assigned cabin is in a truly terrible location, maybe you look at the deck plan and see it's directly under the noisy nightclub or the scraping chairs at the pool deck, you actually have a limited window of time where you can request a room change. However, there is a catch. This change can only be made within the specific limited letter or number subcategory that you were originally assigned to. You can't just upgrade yourself. Still, it does give you a tiny bit of control back over your vacation destiny, but it's certainly a brand new dynamic for budget-conscious cruisers to weigh when booking.
All right, let's move into our final segment, Section 5, Onboard Experience Changes.
We are ending on a very high note because this is a fantastic, highly requested change coming to Norwegian Cruise Line. Specifically, this applies to their exclusive, luxurious ship-within-a-ship VIP area known as the Haven. Previously, the Haven restaurant was strictly off-limits. It was for Haven guests only, full stop. But now, NCL is allowing outside guests, meaning your family or friends who are sailing on the exact same ship but perhaps staying in standard cabins outside of the Haven complex, to actually come in and dine with you in the Haven restaurant. Now, you should know this is subject to availability. You can't just bring 20 people in and certain terms and conditions apply. But just think about what a real game changer this is. It is absolutely perfect for multi-generational families or large groups of friends who desperately want to travel together, but everyone has completely different room budgets. Maybe the grandparents want to splurge on the luxury suite, but the kids are perfectly happy in an interior room. Now you can still share those high-end, exclusive dining experiences together as a family. It's a huge win.
And wow. That brings us to the end of our journey through these new travel regulations. We've covered a lot of ground today, everything from digital European border kiosks and strict power bank limits to controversial wagon bans and shifting daily gratuities. I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. Which of these new rules do you personally think is the most helpful, or conversely, the absolute most frustrating? Will Princess Cruises' new arrival groups totally save your sanity on boarding day, or is Royal Caribbean's new $30 room peak fee driving you completely crazy? Let that sink in. Understanding these rules visually is really the absolute first step to mastering your next big vacation and avoiding those nasty surprises. Thank you so much for hanging out and joining me on this explainer today. Keep learning, keep exploring the world safely, and I'll see you next time.